Call this meeting to order. This meeting and all other meetings of this committee are open to the public. Proper notice has been posted and given to the press in accordance with Wisconsin statutes, so the citizenry may be aware of the time, place, and agenda of the meeting. Roll call.
Gunderson?
Here?
Brennan?
Here. All right. Looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the September 15th, 2014 meeting.
I'll make that motion.
And I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries. Citizen appearances. None. All right. Number 4, discussion and possible action on garbage and recycling, RFP.
You will find in your packet, and you'll remember from last month's Public Works meeting that we had decided to put 2 questions in the citizen survey related to this topic, and specifically, as you see in your packet there, question number 7 on the citizen survey related to the schedule or the frequency of recycling pickup. So we asked people, and I'll just read it off. City of Weyauwega currently provides residential curbside pickup for recyclable materials 1 time per month. If you could decide the recycling pickup schedule according to the amount of material generated at your home, what pickup schedule or frequency would you prefer? The potential answers we listed were weekly pickup, bi-weekly pickup, monthly pickup, which again is what we have right now, or no preference. Through October 12th, which is 148 surveys that are in, the answer right now is monthly pickup, 59.86%, so roughly 60%. Behind that, bi-weekly pickup every other week is 26.06%. And then weekly and no preference right now is 7.04%. The survey itself is still open through the end of the week, and we did get, I want to say, another 15 that came in. Yesterday we didn't have any mail, so they came in today. But that's sort of where we're at right now preliminarily with question number 7. Now question number 8 was if the city provided each residence with 1 large bin or container on wheels, which is what we specified at this committee you wanted to have on wheels, to combine all recyclable material, paper, plastic, glass, etc., in 1 container, you would be blank to recycle more material. And the potential answers we put out there were you're more likely to recycle more material, less likely, or basically you feel that a container issued to you would result in no change in your habits. Oddly enough, it's a dead tie between people that feel that it would be more likely they would recycle more material and people that think it would have no change in their habits. And again, that's preliminary, so it's technically not closed yet. But you could assume or deduce from these results right now that if we're asking people, should we look into providing containers, the results are inconclusive at best, just off of the preliminary results in the survey.
All right.
The reason we put the 2 questions on, or the reason I proposed to put those on, were to try to get a better answer on how we should be moving forward with the garbage and recycling program. Because right now we don't give anybody any bins, so they put it out in their own method, and we pick up recycling once a month. The way we had bid out the garbage and recycling, I guess, RFP document was technically a hauler could offer any one of these options on recycling frequency, and there were probably 3 options with bins. It would be keep it the same, no bins at all, provide 1 bin, either for garbage or for recycling, or provide 2 bins. And at this point, it's on my end, I would suggest that you should probably be taking a look at the idea of bins, because that's going to be a change for people. The quotes themselves, I've got all of them compiled. Really, there's probably 6 to 8 different options on how you could go with this in awarding these bids, and without having any clarity on what type of schedule you'd like for pickup and what type of a method for pickup, it's hard to narrow in on what your best bet is going to be, because the costs aren't really going to determine for you which way you should go. They're fairly close, and among the vendors, they're fairly close too. What I did tell the haulers, because I talked to them today, I had mentioned that I feel that with this citizen survey, we still have this week yet that it's open. And once it closes, we'll have the ability with our statistical software to zero in on people that think garbage and recycling are important. What do they think about how we should do this? People that think they're less important. You know, we could go through a lot of the demographics and try to get an answer where it looks like maybe there isn't an answer. But at the end of the day, the survey really isn't a binding answer for you anyway. You know what I mean? It's up to you guys to decide how you want to move forward. And quite honestly, the idea of the bins is it's a big potential change if you go that route. So what I had told the haulers was that I did not anticipate that there would be a decision on the bins or on the frequency tonight. But that could change. You know, it's up to you guys to do whatever you'd like. But the quotes themselves, I have them tabulated. My intent is to have you take a look at those two questions first. Because the quotes, in the end, you're going to end up looking at all of them, but the quotes themselves, you know, I don't want that to swim or bleed into your decision making on how we should go with the method here.
And this is just recycling.
No,
It's garbage
Because it
and
just-
recycling?
yeah.
Right, it just talked about recycling on here though.
Yeah, these 7 and 8 are just about recycling, yes.
Evening. Okay, and also with that, the cost on the recycling alone bins,
Yes.
I know the whole thing, if you did both garbage and recycling, was like 80,000
Well, we took
for the city to put out.
we had a budget number based on what we've paid in the past. We
Right.
haven't technically set the budget up to apply to any of the quotes that were put out there. That's kind of a number that could change yet. But the one thing to look at, and even though, so you're coming in now, though you don't have the quotes in front of you, the one thing that's safe to assume is that you're not gonna be able to pick one hauler for garbage and another hauler for recycling. It's sort of a
Right.
package deal. Well, it is a package deal, so.
Well, I don't know, I'm thinking we're probably looking at monthly pickup, judging by the spread here. But given things are so close on the other question, and since we don't really have to make a decision this month, I'd almost like to just table this and get the full results from the survey, so we can better look at bins or not bins.
Okay.
And the only reason I bring up the cost, regardless who, is if I was just taking the survey, which, once again, I let my wife, because I told her I knew all the answers,
Sure.
not about the survey. Anyway, because of that, because if I was just taking that, I wouldn't think of any expense. I would just say, oh, I get a container. So if, which I suppose isn't part of a way you do a survey, said at the cost of so much to the city or however it works out, that would change the survey dramatically. In my opinion, am I right? Correct me if I'm wrong, like we used to say.
I believe you're right.
So, yeah, I would just, oh yeah, I'd like a container. You know, a lot of people are more aware than I would be maybe if I was, but that's kind of, oh yeah, just the way I see it.
Personally, I'll tell you, my wife brought up the same thing. She did the survey in our household, and she had mentioned, because I talked to her about these preliminary results, and she said, well, but you didn't put anything about the price. And maybe looking back on it, that would have been a good thing to put in there, that the cost to a resident wouldn't, so, you know, qualify it and say, if your costs don't change, what do you think? And the reason I say that is because the monthly fee that we charge for garbage to residential properties brings in enough money, and I think I can safely say this, and knowing that I'm the only one that's seen these quotes, the amount of money we take in on that fee covers any quote that had been provided to you. So the idea of having to raise that fee, I don't want to say it's off the table because it's up to you as the policymakers, but it's not something that you have to do. Whatever your quotes are that you're going to go with, it's going to fit into the amount of money that is
Oh, I guess
charged
I
already.
understood from another meeting that regardless, there was gonna be a certain cost to the city.
Oh, there is.
There is,
To that-
but it's built in. We can absorb it without changing anything, is what
Okay, cause
Patrick's
I
saying.
guess, I was thinking that regardless, then the city's putting all this out up front, and of course, no taxpayer would wanna see that much money just go for something that is working already. You know, the
Right.
system that, as they see it. So, anyway, okay. Now
Yeah.
I know more.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not that the system isn't working, it's that we need to bid this out by policy every 5 years.
Right, exactly, I
So-
understand, right.
So if you're looking at tabling it until the survey is done, again, the survey closes Friday. The next Public Works meeting is either going to be November 10th or November 11th. And I say November 10th or 11th because we're looking at TIF or TID hearings. And they're looking at either November 10th or the 11th. Right now, they've tentatively got November 10th, which is your Public Works Monday.
Either one of those nights will work for me,
Okay.
so it could be either one, and that would. So just given the fact that there is no straight answer on that one yet, that they're exactly tied. And since we're not,
Whether to go to bids or not.
yeah, and seeing as how we're not in a time crunch, I'd say let's look at it and weigh everything out. Anybody that watches this video now knows that they're not looking at a cost increase.
Yeah.
Possibly, probably.
Yeah.
You all right with that?
I agree.
The other piece too is, it looks like the schedule to fill the vacancy on your committee will accommodate your November 10th, 11th meeting. And I'm not saying that between the two of you, you wouldn't agree on a recommendation, but in case you really get down and look at this and
All right.
it's 1-to-1, you may not even make a recommendation,
Yeah.
But, and that's not a real important thing at all, having the third, but the idea is that you'd have somebody there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, in situations like we're in, isn't there some kind of policy or like, well, the mayor often,
Oh, we have a quorum right now.
That's the problem,
So-
is technically you have a quorum, because
Right.
you have two people. It
So-
just, yeah, the mayor would step in to help get the meeting running if you only had one that showed up.
All right. So let's just table it till next month.
Okay.
When we have hopefully a full committee and a full survey, and we can make our decisions then.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
thank you for coming anyway.
You're welcome. Glad we could be here.
Can I get your name? I'm sorry.
Brian Hopkins,
And are you with one of the haulers?
Advanced Disposal.
Okay.
were all the haulers invited?
They were notified that the meeting was tonight.
Okay.
Yep.
Did you lock the other three outside? Did you lock the other three outside?
Here's my card.
Okay.
And then that way I got my cell phone number in there. So when we come back in November, are you in contact to get a
Yep.
hold of them? Okay. That sounds good.
Area manager over there.
Okay. Sounds very good.
I left you a message saying I keyed in the wrong address.
Oh,
I put it
sure.
over towards Hortonville and I realized that's not it. I
Sure.
didn't leave soon enough.
Oh, sure.
My apologies.
No, and I was in a meeting and just came over here from that meeting, so. But thank you though.
All right, and you said what day?
you're
It's
Are you
right
gonna
now
sit
it's
back
for
and go
November
around?
10th.
Okay. Can you just call me or email me and let me know?
Definitely.
And,
Definitely, I can do that.
All right.
all right.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is that all you need?
Yep, that
That's
should
it.
be good. Yep, there won't be any action until next month on it.
Great.
Okay?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right. Well then. Guess we're down to the engineer's report.
Okay, on the wastewater treatment plant update, I put together a tentative schedule. Patrick, did you pass that out to him, or
The actual schedule?
the one that I sent that email over?
Oh, no, I did not.
What we're looking at is, AgriPure's plans still aren't in concrete yet as far as what we're gonna do. With those, we figured would be completed by the November Public Works meeting. But what we're looking at doing is, with authorization to proceed for the engineering on November 17th to finalize the plan, put it back out for bids, that would keep us on track to have substantial completion in February, March of 2016, which is the time that AgriPure is looking to start ramping up their loading. They're not gonna bring it all to us at one shot, they're gonna ramp it up over half a year to the full, so we should be okay with that. If we get started later than November 17th, then we start crimping into the time frame that they were looking for. So Patrick's had a meeting with them today to discuss it a little bit more. So we're looking at staying on track and hopefully getting some direction here over the next couple of weeks to come back with a tentative plan and proposal to get the engineering finalized on that and put out for bids whatever project we deem the one that best suited for AgriPure's expansions. So that's what we're looking at right now for the wastewater treatment plant. Patrick, do you have anything else to add to it?
No. No, the one thing we're just looking at is, we're definitely looking at a project similar to what we bid out in 2013, which would accommodate an additional 450,000 gallons from AgriPure. The question is, because of the potential land sales in there, I think when we bid that, we had assumed that we would have the land if we had to ramp it up even higher or build it out from there. And those plans and some of the site modifications may change a little bit. So that's kind of what we're working on right now.
Okay.
Okay, the East Alfred Street project, the curb and gutter, they were, with the rain we had, they're ready for curb and gutter right now. We staked it all last week. They were supposed to be in yesterday and today, starting to string line, but when they get backed up on the one job, they get backed up on our job and all the way through. I'm still anticipating them to be in this week.
Okay.
So once they set the string line and pull the curb, then they'll also hopefully follow up right behind it with the sidewalk and the driveways, and then the county will follow up behind it with backfilling the curb and paving. So I'm still thinking we're shooting for the end of the month, hopefully to have the asphalt down. That'll all depend upon the weather and so forth, but they are moving along. Weather has not helped us on that. The 2004 utility construction contract B14 update, that project is all done. That will be closed out for the November meeting. Everything is landscaping's done. The punch list items they had are taken care of and completed, so that will be finalized and final payment will be due in November.
Okay.
Tank rehabilitation update, as we've discussed the last couple meetings, I anticipate having this all taken care of. I'm not getting a whole lot of correspondence out of the contractor. We've got one or two punch list items that they have to get for me in order to close it out. So I've been trying weekly with these guys and not getting anywhere. We haven't paid them anything for the job, so.
And they haven't asked for any payment either.
Yeah,
Which is very strange.
So-
What we're looking at is like $170,000, $180,000 that.
Yep.
Alright.
So I'm looking at hopefully they can get these two things ironed out and close that one out in November too, so all those projects are taken care of.
Okay.
Park restroom building demolition update, Patrick, you were gonna talk about what your plans were for that?
Yeah, we're looking at that the old restroom that's there,
Yeah.
demolition on that, probably this month or in November. The two concerns we had, which I think we maybe had updated at the last month's meeting. One is the power to the Little Red Schoolhouse runs through the old restroom. And so we wanted to be aware that the power stays in there in some fashion, and we're gonna work with Power Electric on that, which is the individual that did the wiring in that area of the park already for the new restroom. The other piece there is that the water service comes into the old restroom. And one of the things that I believe we've talked about internally as staff is trying to keep that water service there and potentially extend it so that we'd be able to wash and clean out the Lions Club and close shelter. Because right now, Jim goes through all the other shelters that have water and we power wash them. But because the run is 120 plus feet to get to the Lions Club shelter, he's not really able to get in there and power wash that at all. And so we looked a little bit at the potential to extend that water, or at the bare minimum, keep some type of an access to the water service right there. And those are two items that before they come and tear that building down, we would like to get resolved. And we do not have anything for you tonight, other than I have an idea what it might cost to run that water. And we're trying to connect with Power Electric on how do we keep the power to Little Red Schoolhouse. So that's more of an update only right now.
Okay.
Asphalt patching update, all the patches that we had, New London Asphalt come in and take care of are all done. Wisconsin Street, Mill Street, the park, all that work is taken care of. I measured those up today. I'll get them back to New London Asphalt, see how they match his measurements, and then we'll make payment on that, and that'll be done.
So Mill Street was done, it looked like it was
At
only
South?
like a first,
At South Street and Mill and South there?
yeah, right down the road from me, it looked like there, it was still low, like it was just the first, when I noticed the other day, I don't know.
This
I
time
haven't
now,
been by.
it's flush with the top.
Okay, I hadn't been by there for a day, too.
Yeah, that one, and then the other one on Mill Street is up by the co-op, where there was
By the
settlement.
car wash
Yeah.
there?
Okay.
So that's all we had, update on the patching, that's all taken care of. CIP update, Patrick, you were gonna.
Yeah, the
bring
idea
that
on that is we're gonna bring that through in November, through to all the committees. Now, I believe we've done the review that we talked
Here.
about over the last few years. And I mean, we've got all those projects sort of set out in the CIP for now, but the one thing that we haven't really talked about is at the police committee. And that's, doesn't really relate to the Public Works Committee, but, you know, the schedule on vehicle purchases, how is that going to go forward? But there are a couple things that are just hanging out there that we'll plan on bringing through all the committees in November.
And then the project plan for Agapure,
That's the handout I just gave you. As we're looking at prepping for the TID creation in November, before you send out the public notices that you're looking at setting up the hearing, you have to identify a project list with estimated dollar amounts, with an estimated schedule on when you will complete this. Now, this is assuming January 1st, 2015 is like the base date. Just so you have an idea on what we're sort of looking at with the projects there. Now, the TIF eligible or TID eligible, we had worked with Ellers on that, and that's more, most of these projects are, if they're directly related to the TIF or TID project, which is technically the Agapure property, they're 100% eligible. Now, we are going to have a lot of costs and a lot of potential projects in here. Just because it's on the plan doesn't mean it's going to get completed. But if it's not on the plan, it's definitely not going to get completed. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay, I don't know if you want to run through the list real quick. It's,
yeah, the
Why don't you do
wastewater
that,
treatment
Ted?
plant expansion, we've talked about that one.
Yeah.
The sanitary sewer upgrades and roadway improvements on Third Avenue and Mill Street, that's running in front of the Agapure area. The sanitary sewer may be undersized for what their future flows they want to carry. And if that's undersized, then we have to evaluate capacity, but all the way down to the treatment plant may need to be upgraded. And that's all based on their future plans. The sewer on Mill Street's adequate now, but we have to look at their future plans, because if it needs to be increased, it needs to be increased and put into the TIF to pay for the TIF. Demolition clearing the existing industrial site, that's PIP. So that was thrown in as a cost to the TIF. Roadway improvements on Minton Avenue, with all the wastewater treatment plant work being completed, And Agri-Pure using that as an exit in and out of their construction. And if we do replace the sanitary sewer through there, then that road will need to be improved.
Okay.
So that's what that's for. City business advertising sign out on US Highway 10. That's something we've thought about putting out to advertise the businesses locally. Public Works facility, garage and storage, that's the one that's sitting on the treatment plant property right now. That with Agri-Pure's purchase of the land, that's part of the land purchase that would go away. So the city needs to look at how they would provide storage and garage space for Public Works. Replacing the 85,000 gallon elevated storage tank or repaint it. The repainting of that tank is coming up, and in the inspections we've had lately, there's more repairs that need to be done. So based on the painting, the repairs, and the type of paint, it may be more cost effective to replace that tank with a bigger tank.
And which one is this?
The 85,000
One up
gallon.
on the
Mill Street,
Mill.
Okay.
the older one.
And with that one, we would look at, again, what's the water use demand needed for Agri-Pure? So it would be TIP eligible based on the additional expansion for Agri-Pure.
That answered my question right there.
Sanitary sewer, water main, storm sewer, roadway improvements, that's for the area just to the west, Second, Third Avenues. Repairing and replacing some of those sewer and roads in that area. Some of them are original. And then also a new well. In the study that we did on the water system back in the mid-2000s, it said we need to start looking for a new well based on the water use. And again, this all comes down to what Agri-Pure's expansion will be.
Right.
Is how does that affect your water capacity and supply? And if your supply needs to be increased, we need to look at a new well. We've got that in 5 to 10 years out, but it's still in the plan if it comes.
Okay.
So that's a listing of all those.
That's just a review on what we're looking at. Now, those would be included, and then it would come back through you for approval as we're developing the TIF for the TID. So we don't need any action from you tonight, it's more of an informative. These are the types of things we're looking at. And actually, at the Plan Commission, and Mike, you'll remember, one of the members had asked, so what can the TID do for the city? And really, the bulk of what the TID can do for the city and for the area that it's surrounding are these things right here. So,
Okay.
okay?
Okay. Anything else? in your
That's all
report?
for the engineer's report.
All right. And discussion and possible action on water tower tank aeration systems.
Patrick, here's that summary I put together.
Yeah, why don't
I have
you
two
wanna
extra-
hand-
I have 2 extra sheets there.
There you go. I printed it off and it's on my desk right now, but that's, you have the quotes themselves in your packet. The summary sheet is a quick rundown by Thad on the costs. So the quotes that we have for water tower tank
That
aeration
one that's on here?
Yeah. would be from water tower clean and coat.
Those are not in your,
I didn't think so, but it's.
the summary isn't.
Well, these are in
Yeah,
the
those are-
packet,
Yeah, right.
Water tower clean and coat is looking at $18,000 for 3 tanks, $7,500 for 1 tank, $13,000 for 2, $18,000 for 3. They're the cheaper of the options that were quoted, but they're different than the other 2 options too. Water tower clean and coat uses an air bubble tank agitation system, which would introduce air to the tank as it suggests.
Mm-hmm.
The other 2, KLM and then the utility service company who quotes out a PAX system, they end up being about, on that summary sheet, it's $32,000, $33,000 if we would do all 3 tanks. Now, those are more of a mixing type system, so it's not air, it's rotating the water that's in the tanks. We have talked a little bit, and in the TID and other projects that came up today, we didn't get all the way on this topic, but maybe I'll kick it over to you, Thad, to talk a little bit about, because we have 3 water tanks right now, potentially we could look into 3 mixers or aeration systems to try to keep the water from preventing from icing. Now, it doesn't totally eliminate icing.
No.
But the reason it's here is to talk about the idea of is this a good thing? And in talking to Thad and in talking to Eric, what we had informally agreed to just recently here was if we wanted to look into an aeration or a mixer system, maybe we start with one unit, see how it works.
Well, that was kind of my question, because you were just talking about replacing
Right.
the 85,000 gallon one. So what would be the sense of putting an aerator on it now, or
Yeah.
a mixer?
We would
If we're
always
just gonna-
need
Well,
a third tank,
Yeah,
but
The thing with
Go
the
ahead, Thad.
85,000, the thing with the 85,000, if you were to put a mixer in there, because that's the one that freezes quicker, because your two tanks out in the industrial parks, those fluctuate quite a bit.
Right.
85,000 is a little slower to catching up and fluctuating. And that one tends to be, from Eric's comments to me, is that's the one that tends to be, freeze up quicker.
But is it, if you put this in there, can we move it into a new tank?
Yes.
We can move it.
And the difference with these, the one from Clean and Coat is, goes into the base of the standpipe going up. So you have to take the tank down, and they put in their blower at the bottom of the base of the tank. So when the water's going in through the up into the tank, it's carrying the air bubbles up with you. And then the air bubbles come up, and then they get that circulation going around.
Okay.
The other two are drop-ins. You go up on top and are on cables, and you drop them into the bottom of the tank. So you don't have to take tank out of service. And that's where my comments here is no needs to enter the tank. They're drop-in installations. They all say they're ice control. None of them say they eliminate ice, because I don't think they would say that.
Right.
These are lower power usage. Both of those two top ones have 3-year parts and labor. Well, the top one from KLM has 3 years parts and labor, and the one from Utility Services has 3 years on the parts and 120 days on the labor. And then both of those have electrical needs. You just need to be reviewed where the electricity would come. They've got, in their bids, they have a specific amount of electrical work they'll do, but if it needs more, then they need more. All of them require DNR approval, whatever we do. But Eric and I talked about it, and he went to a rural water conference that talked about winter operations.
it's training.
And-
Yeah.
And what he came up with was, and we talked about today, is he's gonna work the tank levels a little different this year. He's gonna widen out the levels, so the water's gonna go down further, and then when they fill, it'll bring the when it's cold like that, the warmer water in, and raise it back up and then draw it down. Instead of going at a 5-foot interval, he may go to 8 or 9. The only problem with the 8 or 9 is you lose that capacity in case you have a fire.
Right.
But then you've got the 100,000 gallon tank reservoir, and you've got 3 wells that have to kick on to make that up. But he's gonna stretch out that interval that he works on the tanks to bring fresher water in more often. But we talked about it, do you go with one tank, do you go with 3, do you try one, see what your thoughts are. So it's both mixers are there. The other comment Eric had is maybe if we put it off till the November meeting, either Eric or myself can call the references, get references from these installations, and find out if any of them have any issues that some are gonna say they're great, some will tell you, hopefully they'll tell you if there's issues. Maybe they work good, but they have this problem, or maybe they do this.
Yeah, that's wise, of course.
One of the other things that's unanswered as of yet is the price difference between the air bubble agitation system and just the mixers. And there is a question on introducing air to the water system.
Right.
Is that going to result in more need and costs with chemicals? Is it going to have problems with air in the lines? That's one thing that we haven't yet determined. So it's potentially, as Thad mentions, to hold that till November.
I would be
It's not
okay
the
with
worst thing there.
holding it and getting more references and finding out
Yep.
people.
Yep. I think that would be a good idea.
Okay. All right, discussion on park and public works storage facilities.
The park and the public works, so the park itself is a continuation on the need for when we tear down the storage and restroom facility, what are we going to do with
Yep.
storage in the park? I do have a lot of information on some space that we could utilize in the park, and it has to deal with that piece of property we looked at is the last month and the last 2 months, where all the pine trees are next to the swim lake. There is a potential to clear that area, perhaps introduce enhanced parking, have an area for a garage that's right off of Emerald Street there. Quite honestly, with all the other projects going on, we've sort of been in the information gathering phase there, so it's not enough yet to bring to you for a decision. But we don't, it's not like we have all winter to figure this out, but we're certainly not going to be looking at constructing anything in the park until spring anyway.
Right.
For the winter, we've got everything tucked away in the Lions shelter, so we should be good there.
Okay.
So there isn't anything on the park. Now, the public works storage, just as an update, with the potential or I guess eventual land sale at the treatment plant, we're going to be moved out of that garage at the treatment plant. Within the next 2 weeks, they're completing the work at the garage site that we'll have at the Taylor Cheese property. But knocking out doors to put in new garage doors. We'll be able to lease that facility, and it's going to be covered by Agri-Peer as they're looking at buying that land. So the update is for this winter, we're going to be okay. But moving forward, the only garage technically that we'll have, that we own, is the garage behind City Hall. Because we vacated the AA garage because we needed to. It's probably a good thing to say. We're looking at tearing down a storage facility in the park, even though we're looking at, a potential solution there. And then potentially we'll be, well, for sure, we'll be taking down the garage at the treatment plant. So as we talked about the TID project plan here, you'll see a public works facility storage garage. We have tentatively set that out for 2 to 4 years in the TID. The reality is that potentially we may need it sooner than 2 years. So we'll take a look at that. But like I said, we've really sort of been in the information gathering phase. I would imagine that we'll take this back up in November or December at the latest. But the key is that we're set with storage facilities for the winter, and that's kind of a big deal because now it's pretty darn near winter.
Where will we be storing the salt?
We are still able to, we store it in the sludge barn.
Yeah, we're still be able to?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because we'll still be actively operating the sludge storage area as part of the treatment plant, so we're still good
Okay.
on that yet.
Good.
And actually, as we move forward, we're still probably okay to keep it there if we need to. But taking a look at a storage facility for salt would probably be a pretty good thing as we're looking at a garage.
Very good.
So we should be good for the winter on that end.
All right.
Okay? So it's just an update only, we'll bring that back to you.
All right. Discussion and possible action on contracted snow removal rates.
The quotes that we have received, I should say quote, is for essentially a renewal, or it's a new set of quotes from Fox Brothers if we would decide that we needed to call them. They've offered that and it's been in your packet. We had reached out to a number of excavation companies. Essentially, we weren't able to get a quote back from them. Now, the snow removal process that we have is going to include the county picking up some extra streets for sure. The one thing that we're holding off on is, or we're waiting for, is what type of a compensation is the county going to request? And they haven't really, they've known that we're looking at utilizing them. Now, whether a compensation is that we trade off services with them, that maybe makes the most sense. But whether they would bill us, we haven't really heard at all. We did renew a lease with a John Deere, and so we'll have that tractor, and the hope is that we have a full staff all through the winter too. And
Always
they're
hope
1
that.
year experience more than what they were going into last winter. The other piece is that we have the John Deere now. where last year we got it in January, so we'll have it with a plow blades there. The last piece for the snow removal rates is going to be, or for the snow removal is, when we have to clean out downtown, who do we call? And if we run into trouble getting streets cleared, who do we
Right.
call?
And this is totally, I mean, we do renew this contract and it's still on-call basis.
Correct.
We're
These
not
are
locked
the,
into any dollar amount per se until we use them. All right, pay per use.
yep, the key on this Fox, when you look at the sheet here, in the main category, the main section where they have all of the rates, it says right there, we will administer and perform the following services at your request for snow plowing and removal on any city property as designated by the city. Basically, what these rates are is if you call us and you tell us to do something, we will do it and here's the cost.
Right.
Now, they are aware that the county will potentially be picking up some more streets, and they are also aware that we have the John Deere. But I will tell you that we in the county are not able to clear out downtown when we need that, so there will always, at least in the next 2 years, be a need for some snow removal. The one thing that might change, and that I had hoped to get some quotes, or at least a better idea on, is the snow tractor, or the snow blowing tractor that they've used to clear off the sidewalks downtown before the big cleanup. What I had found out is that was technically Chris Johnson's personal tractor that he brought down and parked in our city garage. And either that's not going to be available or it's not in condition to be used. And so one of the questions we had was, is there something else that the city needs to provide, or is Fox Brothers going to provide that? And they haven't given us an answer. But as we've talked to John Deere about the big tractor lease, they had told me that they have like a winter equipment leasing program. The problem is they let me know what types of pieces of equipment they had. They didn't tell me what the rates or terms might be. And I'd hope to get that soon, or at least before winter, to at least be able to take a look at it. But we don't have anything yet. The reason why that might be important is that the snow blower that we've used for the sidewalks around the library and when we've had to snow blow is really in bad shape, and we're probably going to be looking at quotes to replace that somehow. That'll probably come to you in November with some type of a solution there. But for right now, those are the rates as they're proposed from Fox.
So you're looking for a motion to renew the,
I would approve,
Lease.
I would call it,
or approve
treat
the,
this as a new proposal to you. Because the rates, I believe it's about $1 an hour per piece of equipment that it's raised up. I would just approve the rates from Fox Brothers for snow removal. From 2014 through 2016. Is that okay?
sounds okay. I'll make a motion that we approve the rates from Fox Brothers for the 2015-2016 season.
I'll second that. Did you say from 2014 through 2016?
Oh, that's, yeah,
Just
yeah,
being
2014,
just being
you're right.
technical here.
Yep.
Yeah.
I moved on to 2015 already. I forgot what year it was.
Time flies, yeah.
Oh,
I'm thinking, according to their proposal about that, it looks like they're,
15, then 15, 16 actually goes up.
Yeah.
yeah, it goes up
Yeah,
$2 more, but,
yeah,
also that they are telling you that on the bottom there, snow blower for the sidewalks is available,
yeah. They have a snow blower for sidewalks.
right?
For the
So,
sidewalks that we hire them to do. We could talk about that.
Yeah.
The problem is they got it in at $61 an hour.
But it says snow blower, no man with it, of course.
I think those are the
That's-
rates, and if they bring one out,
that's everything.
Yeah,
You sure? Because
Yep, that-
I remember seeing old prices of $93 per man hour.
No, that's
No.
everything.
this is a, yeah,
What their pricing is, that's with the person in that vehicle.
right.
yep.
And the only other thing that I will ask is, did we put this in the paper asking for quotes?
We did not.
We didn't at this
It wasn't
time?
in the paper, no.
Okay. So we just basically called them?
Right.
Okay, because I was gonna say, if this was out and we had a deadline for the proposals,
Right.
it's pretty hard to go back now and say, well, we're gonna allow the county to come in or somebody else, you know, to,
Right, and that's where, when we've talked to Fox though, it's at our request for them, you know?
Right.
And with the county wouldn't be interested in any of the extra services. Basically, what they're potentially offering is, because we're already coming down X and F, you know, take a left turn, catch a street, and then get back on the county highway. So they're not looking at cleaning downtown out, sidewalks, anything like that. The plus with the county would be, the county roads through town are usually the cleanest because they're salting and salting and salting, and they get on them right away too. So if we did like a main street and some of the hills potentially, that's sort of what we had put out to the county, is if you'd be interested or able to have somebody swing through those streets, definitely to the schools. That would be a big thing, because it gets a little icy and people are out there at 7 o'clock getting the kids to school. You know, usually the county's been through once or maybe even twice by then.
well, and I think you could also do with folks, you could do the same thing. Basically tell them that you want the school area to be done by a grader with a wing and not with the loader with the wing. We'll be saving money that way and hopefully doing a better job with the grader. In my past experience, I will say that is. I don't believe they can get that loader with the wing down far enough to put enough pressure on the street to get the snow up. So what they're doing is just taking off the very top of it, leaving a couple inches. So every time they plow, they leave an inch, and we keep getting from 2 inches to 8 inches on the street.
Yep, and that was brought up last year, because if you look at those top two rates there,
Yep.
if the assumption is the grader gives you better results, look at what the rate is. Grader's technically $40 cheaper an hour too.
Right.
And that's something that we brought up with them. Now, the one thing that they don't have behind the grader is salt or sand or whatever on their vehicles. And that's one thing that the benefit with the county would be. And I mean, the other piece is that we've got our own, you know, we buy salt and sand too, and we put it in our trucks. So, I mean, we're able to run through there, but
I think we have our, yeah, I would say I'd use our trucks.
as long as we have the material. Problem is, last year we ran out of, we had straight salt, quite a bit of it. And because of the winter, there was a time there where nobody could get it, and the county was holding on to the salt that they had.
Any other discussion?
Bruce, if you look at the top line, it says will furnish necessary labor.
Material and equipment.
Yep.
So materials and equipment, so labor's are included.
But I can say, and I'd just repeat myself a little bit, we did talk to Chris Johnson last year and say, well, for those rates, why wouldn't
Right.
we just call the grader in all the time, and just run the grader all the time?
They have a hard time with the side streets with that, though.
They could. Yeah,
Say that again.
I think they have problems on the side streets with the grader.
some of
at
them, I
times.
think.
That some of our side streets have problems that, with just the size of the grader.
I know we've had both come up into our dead end, you know. Both seem to work.
Yep.
Being that they would be on demand, would there be any concern with, well, sorry, we'll get there when we can because we're already booked up, that kind of thing? Or it's always
No.
timing and calling?
Yep, and I think it's on here too,
Number one
that
priority.
they're our number one priority, or that we're their priority.
We got their number
And it
one.
says, yeah, it says that in the bold,
Mhm.
under the, we will administer and perform, it says
Yeah,
number
I
one
did.
priority.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I did see that before, yeah, okay.
Yep.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries. Yard waste site update.
Update we have that is, as of today, all of the brush that's been there all year that we have been trying to track down multiple vendors for has been chipped. The problem that we ran into was, this Green Resources ended up coming out of Swamico. They are the company that we called in the spring of last year. So when we first had to clear it out, when I first started with you, that's who we called in. I got a hold of them last week because the other two we had been working with had said a couple weeks we'll be there, and a couple weeks came and went, and another couple weeks came and went, and here we sat. Green Resources had said that they, as of last week, could be here in another 3 to 4 weeks if we needed the material trucked away. But if they could chip it, and if we had room on the yard waste site, they could be there the next day. And so they came. It was a little goofy on Friday, but they did bring their equipment out. They had a question because the piece of equipment they brought out was 55 tons, and they're on the north side of Green Bay, and with Highway 41 being cut up,
Yeah.
they're too big and too wide to be able to get through 41 to get to 10. They had to take 54 and chart a course where they wouldn't go over a bridge that they're not allowed to go over, being at that weight. So there was a little bit of a delay till yesterday they showed up. They did most of the chipping yesterday and then finished it today in the rain. But we have the brush on site. It's in 2 big piles. The hope is, and I haven't looked at the quality because with the rain today, it's kind of a big mud hole in there. But it's not a premium wood chip product, but it's piles of brush that are in wood chips now, if that makes sense. And the idea was, the difficulty was trying to get the chipper to town. Hopefully, a AAA Hardwoods, an Ort, whoever it is that deals in this type of a material, would be more likely to come and just pick it up with their trucks, maybe for no charge, than it would be to get a chipper out. Because when we talked to Ort, that was their big hang up, was that they had to get a hold of a chipper, come here, chip it, and then haul it out too. But it's in a lot neater piles, and we have cleared out the area where the brush was before. So that's the update there. If you see some big chip piles now, that's why.
Okay. All right. Review of the 2015 general budget.
You have a copy of the budget, the general budget in your packet. I did tone down the blue for you.
Thank
A little
you.
bit. You mentioned the finance, that it was a little bit too bold, I guess. The finance committee, the recreation committee have both reviewed their sections of the budget. Both have recommended approval as presented. When we look at the public works section, the changes that we've made are in the street laborer section. In 2014, it was $55,300. The proposed in 2015 is $46,000. That's a cut or a reduction of $9,300. And that assumes a 3% increase on the base rate for public works. So the base rate is $17 in 2014. That's a 51-cent raise to get to $17.51. While it's a 3% increase, in reality, because of the tiered wage structure we have for public works, page number 6 in your packet, well, page number 5 will show you the increase on the wage structure. Page number 6 shows you for each of the 4 employees we have, a 3% raise on the base rate equals 2.95% for our newest employee, 2.54 for our 2 senior employees, and 2.68% for the 3rd employee who's been here 3 years now. Also on page number 6, and I don't have a change from 2014 to 2015, The reason the general fund amount goes down, even though there's a raise, is that we are shifting some of the responsibility out to the utilities. And it's going to more accurately track the work they do for the sewer fund and the work they do for the water fund. Those amounts have been included on the water and sewer budgets, and I have a draft of those. That will come to you in November, though.
Okay.
So when we get back to the general fund budget, the main difference is in street labor, cut of $9,300. And when we get down to recycling and garbage collection, between the two of them, the budget for 2014 was $87,400. The budget amount that we tentatively have set is about $88,000, so it's about the same amount. The bids generally fall into that range there, so if we have to tweak that in November based on the bids that you actually select, I feel comfortable that those are amounts, between the two, it will cover what you need for 2015.
Okay.
Other than that, there really aren't any changes at all to the public works section of the budget. The one piece I think that's there is the yard waste site. An increase of $1,000.
Okay.
Other than that, there's not too much on the public works end for the general budget. The big thing would be the change in the staffing and then the raise. So, any questions?
No.
Just the increase in the yard waste, is that, what does that come from?
It's going to end up being, it's based on what we've spent actually. Now, in 2012, 2013, before I came, we had set aside $6,000 there. And in 2013, you'll remember that's when the DNR showed up and said you have to treat it as something more than just an area to dump.
All right.
So for 2014, we increased it $4,000 up to $10,000. In 2013, because of the storm, we had a second chipping, I guess, incident there where we had to come through and chip a second time for a couple $1,000s. Otherwise, the $10,000 number would have been probably in line there. The reason why we're a little over right now in 2014 is because as we chose to put in those concrete blocks,
Right.
that's a one-time cost for those blocks that ended up being
Right.
roughly that amount that's over the budget there right now. Now, we'll address that difference with a budget amendment before the end of the year.
Right.
But the assumption is that going forward, we're not going to have that. The blocks are already there.
Okay.
So an increase is, it looks like about $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 is what that's gonna take to operate that, but as we start to operate it more regularly, we'll find out what a good number is there. But for now, it's an increase of $1,000. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. Do we need a motion to accept it, or is it just a,
Seems like a motion to recommend approval of the 2015 proposed general budget.
I'll make a motion to approve
You can say the public works section if you'd like.
Public Works section of the proposed 2015 general budget.
I will second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Your report.
Just a quick rundown of some of the things. I talked about the yard waste site, the big chipping we had. The garbage and the recycling we've got out there, that'll come back in November. And again, the survey will be wrapping up this week. We do have PLC in town this week doing some root cutting.
I saw that.
Pine Street, Mill, and Mary. And on Mill, actually in the last year and a half, year here, we've had two backups. One was on Pine Street at Yorkson's property. Another one we just had was at Mill for Rand. And PLC's been through with the root cutter. The other piece that they're gonna go look at potentially cleaning out if they have time is to clear out the 3rd Avenue sewer main for Agri-Pier. But that one I've got to talk to them tomorrow yet. But we do have root cutting. Now, the preliminary report is that it's been very, very heavy roots down Pine. That's the street they cleaned out today. They're running the camera behind it to take a look at what those look like there. But I don't know, I'm not sure when we had cleared or cleaned out those lines, or if they've been root cut before, probably a while.
5, 8 years ago.
Okay.
Because when we started putting the, putting that cured in place pipe through the Pine Street, that was because of the roots.
Hmm.
That was right when we added it to the CIP.
You talked about Rands on Mill Street.
Yes.
Is that why those trees got all cut down there?
No, those were cut down because
Is
of
that the wire?
asplund coming through, and I took pictures of those trees. It was within a day or two of when they had the sewer backup, which, when they had the sewer backup, Eric and I were out at 10 PM to midnight, checking
Really?
that out. But we energies, asplund actually came through to chop out the lines for, to clear those lines. If you take a look at their power lines, they're actually fairly low, right
Oh.
there.
So they had no choice but, yeah.
They had chopped probably 80% of those trees off, and all that was left was a
Yeah.
little bit that hangs out to the road.
Yeah.
Now, Asplin called me, and Mrs. Rand had asked me if the city could just take those down, and Asplin offered to just do it for free. And we did put in for an urban forestry grant for next year, and as part of that grant, we had requested to plant like 20 new trees next year, so we'll be able to go through, if we get that grant, we can plant a couple new trees there, and probably plant things that'll be lower growing.
I was gonna say, what's the purpose otherwise?
Yeah. Yeah, but we'll take a look at that, and it's something that was cut down at no charge to the city, and because they're
Do
city
they-
trees, they had
The
asked us.
stump
on.
grinding happens the same, they take care of that too?
We'll have to check with them on that.
So,
Yeah, go ahead.
oh, go ahead, finish yours.
Well, the idea is we actually cut some trees down in the park, the big park, and we already have sort of some stump grinding that's on tap for right away next spring. And if we need to cover the stump grinding in that area, we could run and cut, I think it's 3 of them, 4 of them in front of
I
Rams,
think, yeah.
so.
We have a program now for our root cutting, right? As far as going,
We do.
maintaining our roads.
We do, the problem we're going to have is, well, when we put together the sewer budget, we put in an inflated amount for this type of work, cutting roots. The sewer jetter that we have does not have enough water or enough capability to actually cut roots. And the problem is, for Rands, there were roots and there were problems in the main right out in front of their house. Now, we had jetted it 5 or 6 times to clear it out. Things would come down the hill, and then technically they had like 3 backups at their house within a week. I will give you a report when I get it, but we had to hire ServPro to come and clean their basement. And literally, as ServPro cleaned out their basement, and before they could leave, it backed up and filled their basement a second time. Which isn't very good. But when we shot the camera down in on Mill Street to take a look at what we did with the jetting, and we did get some pictures, but you can see that there's roots in the line, and you can see that right through the middle, our jetter went through it, but the roots are still there in the line yet, so.
We need to put something,
But we had them on root cutting for sure. Now, the idea might be every 2 years, we hit the whole city with some root cutting.
well,
Worst case, or, at least.
at least section the city up. And so that,
Rotation kind of thing?
right, so okay, this year we're gonna do this quarter, so that we keep the lines open, so we don't have this problem.
Right.
I mean, you can develop a history of where the roots are problems, where the sewers are old and you have large trees.
Yep.
Those are 2 areas where some of these new streets that we've done in the last 10, 15 years, all PVC pipe, probably not having any issues there.
Well, then,
Unless the laterals are,
well,
We
right.
did laterals up to the property line, but the other thing is with your root cutter, or your jetter, you had a root cutter for it. But when you do your root cutting, all you're doing is pushing the problem down because you don't have
They
a
stay in
vac
the
truck to
line.
pull,
Right.
pull the roots
Well,
out.
and I understand that, but we'd just like to see us develop some sort of program, so that we stay on top of this,
I knew Pine Street was a problem area. That's always been.
you know.
And we've tried to fogwood root inhibitor and all those types of things. It just doesn't seem to do a whole lot.
yep. There's a number of communities, and one I could point to is 2 Rivers. They just set aside like 40 grand in their budget just to root cut every year. Now, we have a program for our own jetter, if we would take that out and get the whole city. But the problem might be, you know, is that good enough for what we need? And from what we're looking at with the camera, it doesn't look like it's doing too much, especially when you're at, I don't mean to pick on the Rand residents, but we ran the jetter.
Right.
And 6 times might even be low on the number of times we ran it through there, and it was still backing up. And it still had roots there, so,
I'd like to see you guys come up with something for it,
sure.
you know.
It
I'm
could
not
just
asking for
be,
something next month, but just, you know,
right.
in the future here, so we can develop something that,
Quite honestly, what it's probably gonna be is just increasing the amount in the sewer budget, and then
Oh.
just employing a strategy right away to get,
you know, that's what it takes.
yep,
Just,
yep.
because I've had sewer backups, that's not good.
And I could tell you with the cleanup alone, now I didn't see the final bill, but the cleanup from, just to have ServPro run, it's like $6,000-7,000 just to clean.
Yeah.
But again, that was potentially two cleanups because it filled up twice, and it's just not.
Where are they out of? Which one? are
The
they?
one that came was out of Oshkosh.
Okay.
And at the time, we called Service Master, multiple companies. ServPro was the only one that could come like that day. The other ones, it was gonna be 2 days, which, when you've had a basement full,
You don't want to wait 2 days.
yeah.
You
So,
you don't want to wait an hour.
no.
Yeah.
No. No, so that's, I'll give you a report on that, and that'll be at next month's meeting when I get all the final paperwork on that. And then we'll also probably have pictures on, when we've cleaned out the lines there, what they look like yet.
No good.
Yep.
So the committee knows, I've approached Patrick and told him that I believe that we need to eventually look at getting something to vacuum vacuum out the storm sewers and not, I just don't understand how we can go and push it from one manhole to the next manhole. We're just pushing it downstream.
All right.
We need to buy something that we can push it out, suck it out, and it's done.
And I agree with you, that would be part of a program here that we
Yep.
need to set up for doing this whole,
Yep.
keep all of our sewer, all the pipes
Storm
open.
sewers and
Right.
sewers.
Yep, keep everything flowing.
And there are, used equipment on the market, you know, jetters and back trucks. You would probably end up selling your jetter and get a combination back truck jetter.
Just something to keep
Yep.
in mind and work on it
Yep.
when you have time. When it's slow.
Well, for sure though, it's a big enough, it's a big enough deal though that,
It really
you
is.
know, the problem, and I'm saying this without doing all of the homework or analysis on it. A lot of these trucks they're not cheap. And
No.
keeping them, you know, if you're only doing a little, we did get the quotes from PLC and then we put it in the budget, or quotes from a couple companies to be able to have somebody to call. But moving forward, if we're gonna do the whole city or try to get the whole city covered, that's gonna be a pretty big effort. Or maybe over 3-4 years, maybe that covers the cost of a truck.
It might.
Won't know until we take a look at it.
Yeah,
I'll just dig into it.
2 hires of ServPro at 7,000 for one place. Yeah,
Two-
that adds up. quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Let alone, like you say.
So they're
how often
okay
you
now.
want this.
They
Yeah.
they got that all cut out now and backed up. that
We've
Rams.
got to follow up with them on that. Yeah, there's a question on some drywall work that might have to get done there. But we'll follow up with them on that. I was waiting, and I just got it, I think emailed before the meeting tonight was the final thing from ServPro on what did they get done, and then it's been forwarded to our insurance company too, so,
Okay.
okay?
Anything else?
No, not at this point.
Let's set a meeting for next month. You said either the 10th or the 11th.
If you want to stay on your regular schedule, it would be Monday, November 10th.
Mm-hmm.
The TIF or the TID hearing, tentatively, they have it for the week of the 10th, and they've set it at the 10th. But they've also set it for August, it got moved to September, it got moved to October, it got moved to November, so.
Well,
Your meeting would take the priority on this, if you want to
Because I
keep it
know
on your Monday.
I have a meeting, the one that was supposed to be tonight, got moved to November Tuesday night.
Let's pick
Second
November
Tuesday.
10th then. We'll put
Okay.
November 10th.
Cause there's
The
a lot,
10th?
there's a lot going on at this November meeting.
Yep, yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
anything for you.